All right, we got mostly everybody here. Let's bring in our other Facebook groups before it's officially time to go. Does the logo look weird for you for one of the Facebook groups there
One of them
at the
does.
top?
One of them isn't coming through correctly. I don't know. We don't
That's
get
the
too
main
many views
Facebook one.
from that one anyway. The big one is here.
Okay, well, good. The big one is here. Welcome in, guys. It is Tuesday morning, November 23rd. It is 7:33 Mountain Time, and that means it's time for another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. Coming at you from a day off yesterday with the bye week. We don't have a full bye week, but we had a bye Monday yesterday, so hopefully you guys didn't miss us too much. I miss you guys, I won't lie. So welcome back in, and we're going to talk a little bit of great Broncos news today with Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick signing deals to stay on with the Broncos, and man, awesome. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I enjoyed watching some 12U baseball over at Perfect Game most of the day yesterday. The top players in the country were playing in an all-state select games here, so went over and watched Team Georgia lose to California in the finals and had a good time. Even though it was a little cold, it was a little cold. People, it's like 50. Oh, 50 is not that cold. Well, 50 and windy for 6 hours, you end up getting a little chilly.
Yeah, especially sitting there. If you're moving around right out at 50 doing yard work or something, or that's different than sitting there on metal bleachers or whatever.
I walk around. I stand up the whole time. I'm not going to just stand there, but it was definitely like I said, it's not the temperature, it's the duration that you're out there in the wind and stuff that just gets to you eventually. It sneaks its way in through those layers.
Absolutely. Well, let's say hello to everybody who's joining us right now. We got JD801. Whoop, whoop. Salt City in the house. So Salt Lake, I'm guessing. Glad the Broncos did Sutton good. Sutton and Patrick, JD. So we got a lot to celebrate here. Corey Johnson saying, off of work after a night shift, officially Broncos for bedtime. Well, Corey, put it on, light some candles, put on some soothing music in the background too, and let's lull you to sleep here. Jeremy Sean saying, morning, fellas. Good to see you, Jeremy. Dave Glassman's in the house with the hearts. Dave, I can see your colors in the chat here. I don't know why on the screen it goes to grayscale, but definitely Broncos colors there for those hearts. DWI guys coming in. Good to see you, DWI guys. US Dave saying, warp speed, Mr. Scott, or all dead.
Gotta ramp it up. Time to go.
High energy. Eli wants a shout out, so there you go, Eli. Nice Champ Bailey picture. EJ's in the house. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. And US Day saying I had a bye Monday. No judgment. I'm not sure what that. I'm not sure what you're getting at there, US Day.
I'm not sure what that one means either.
And Jeremy Sean saying Broncos for breakfast windbreaker. Now that'd be sick. Even a mile high huddle one would be great.
I wear beanies all the time, so I want a Broncos for breakfast beanie. I wear these. If the only time that I'm not wearing one of these when it's below 60 degrees is if I got a camera on me. That's about it.
Do you like the ones that have like the flip on them, like the two
Not
levels?
as much. I like straight straight pull downs. But that said, my favorite beanie is a flip. It's a yin and yang. It's all black. It's kind of cool. So
there you go.
I wore that one all day yesterday.
Eclipse Stormborn's in the house also. Happy Tuesday, fellas. Happy Tuesday to you, Eclipse. Michael Ronquillo. Good morning, Nick and Scott from Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos. And let's get into it, guys. Obviously, you can find Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy, and I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Huddle Up Pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. Go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod if you have not joined us there already. Subscribe, like those pages, and we can continue these conversations. And also, guys, on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. That's the easiest, cheapest way you can support this show. Get new eyeballs on this. There's a lot of good Broncos content out there, but Scott and I like to think we're two of the top out there. So if you guys could please do us the favor of subscribing, liking, and sharing. Also go to Apple, iTunes, if you're joining us, listening to us there today, and leave not just the football priest, Scott and I also, your 5-star review with a chance to win some swag each month. People on YouTube, also make sure you're following Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy, where we'll be getting into the draft more and more if the Falcons play of late has any indication. No offense, Scott. And, talk a little bit of football over there on Wednesday morning. So we got, oh my God, boom. Everybody get the air horns out. $100 out of the gate from DWI guys. This is one of the bigger ones that we've had on here. So yeah, man, what happy Thanksgiving.
I said, what's your name? His name's Ethan. So Ethan's a DWI guys up in Minnesota. So
up north there.
I'm assuming they do more than that. I know, having been through the legal process in my early 20s, I certainly appreciated having a lawyer, even though he was mad that it's like, next time, don't just plead guilty. I'm like, but I was guilty and I want to get this over with.
Yeah. Well.
He's like, well, don't just say it. I'm like, listen, I don't care. I want to be done with this. And 24 years later, I've been done with it. So I was certainly appreciative. Actually, I think his name was Ethan too. DWI guys, Ethan, you're still number one on YouTube. So for the month of November. And if I'm not mistaken, it's all been to support this show, which is incredibly impressive for us. So we're as thankful as anybody. So Ethan, appreciate you. And Dave came in just right around that time too, and says, today I give thanks for Broncos for breakfast. Appreciate you guys. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of y'all. And I now see what Nick is saying. The emojis in here are grayscaled on the screen. That wasn't happening for me last time. So this is now a new one. I'm seeing this as well too. Speaking of thankful, I don't have anything to do at 9:30 on Thanksgiving morning. So that'll be up to Nick if he wants to have a little Broncos for turkey breakfast on Thanksgiving morning. But we'll talk about that later, and we'll make an announcement on Twitter or whatnot. But we certainly appreciate y'all, and Travis coming in as well with some stars. Saying, good morning, Nick, Scott, Broncos country. With these signings, I can see Peyton does have a plan in place. Hoping it all goes like we hope. Excited to see what he has envisioned for Denver. He's done due diligence since becoming general manager. Travis, what are your? I'm sorry, Nick. What are your overall high-level impressions of George Payton right now?
I'm overall impressed. I do think that this offseason, everything that I've gathered, he maybe took the cheese a bit at the quarterback position in the draft. I think that I honestly, from what I've gathered and maybe what I believe in my heart of hearts, the Broncos would have drafted a quarterback at 9 if they did not think that they had a real legitimate shot at Aaron Rodgers. I think that threw a wrench in everything, and that made it so, okay, well, wait a second, we can get our number one guy on the board that's not a quarterback and Aaron Rodgers. Let's do that. I'd rather pick that choice, which I don't blame him for that. But everything else he's done has been gold. I mean, people are pretty, I guess, very much in their feelings about the quarterback situation in Denver. I get it. You know, that's when you see Justin Herbert looking like a goddamn superhero Monday night versus the Steelers. I mean, he's incredible. And Patrick Mahomes looks like he's starting to become Patrick Mahomes again. I get the feeling of Broncos country being a little bit on edge about the quarterback position, but only paying Teddy Bridgewater $4.5 million, a 6th-round pick. It gave yourself 1 year. It gave yourself at least treading water at that position where you didn't totally tank this season. You gave yourself a shot, and you gave this coaching staff a shot too. So overall, I mean, it's really hard to criticize Peyton. In the end, his reign, right, or his tenure in Denver will come down to if he can figure out the quarterback position and build around that guy, because it's the NFL, right? That's everybody's gig. But I mean, for what he's had, what he's been given, I think he's so far been as good as anybody could realistically hope. Now, I want to wait.
I think I also like the timing of this. Nick and we haven't talked since these came through, unless we did just a little bit on Saturday.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But I said in the recruiting wars, you usually release bad news after good news after a bad loss. Yeah. You've got a commitment in the bank. We're just going to hold that when we need a little bump in bad news because we just got blown out by a rival, or we just had a bad loss or something like that. Broncos country was as mad as it's been since I've been involved with this after that game last week. And now here comes 2 really good pieces of good news. So while the timing on that may be coincidental with the bye week, the time to get that done during the bye week, this was the perfect time to have these 2 really good pieces of good news, because I don't think I think I've seen one person say, well, isn't that a lot of money to spend when we don't throw the ball that much? Well, the thing is you're not really spending that much money on these guys. You've got $30 million wrapped into 3 top flight type of receivers, 30 millions of cap space in Judy, Patrick, and Sutton. The top 5 guys in the cap next year and a wide receiver are making 25. So you're getting a 3 for 1. And just for the hell of it, everybody grab your coffee. The Atlanta Falcons cap space for 2022 will be $26 million allocated to Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley.
Bam.
Don't talk to me about overspending.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's really, I understand why would you spend this money on wide receiver when wide receiver is a dependent position, but every position is a dependent position to an extent because that's football. That's what makes everybody the ultimate team game, American football.
And
So go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, that this makes it so much better for multiple avenues of the Broncos going quarterback. So you give yourself flexibility, and the Broncos, not only did they not overpay, I would say that they underpaid. Both of these contracts, if both these guys hit the market, I'm guessing they're getting 2 to 4 million per year more than they got here. But the Broncos get it done. They bring both these guys back for their second contracts, which are typically their player's best season, at least the front end of the second contract. These contracts aren't prohibitively long either, right? So you're not worried about, like, let's say somebody, God, everyone knock on wood, somebody suffering a big injury, and then 4 years down the line you're still paying them. These aren't massive length contracts either. So hats off to Peyton, hats off to both these guys too, and hats off to getting it done before these guys hit the market. I put out a tweet yesterday, and it's a general managing 101. I think in the NFL draft, when it comes, guys evaluate talent. I think it's better to evaluate based on tiers, not a straight list, but a tier. And in the free agency and your own talent, you want to be the first to pay a guy on a tier. That's what the Broncos did with these wide receivers. In the draft, you want to be the last to draft a guy on a tier because you don't want to be the first to start that run. Broncos paid these guys before. Listen to these names that are about to be free agents here, upcoming here. Hollywood Brown is about to get paid. He's going to get a big contract from the Ravens. He's been good for them. Chris Godwin, amazing last night. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Mike Williams, Devontae Adams, Michael Gallup, and Calvin Ridley also probably. Right, he hasn't been paid yet. He's still on his one more year. Yep,
he's been picked up for 2022.
Yep. So
he goes to $11 million in 2022, and whether he's there or not, honestly, I don't know how that even works.
Yeah. Yep.
If you got an injury like that, you'd still be counted against the zone. So against the cap. That's how he would be treated, I think. But I don't expect to see him in a Falcons uniform this year, and next year is in doubt.
Yeah. Unprecedented on that one. But either way, getting these wide receivers paid before those guys get paid and totally change the market. I mean, you're paying these guys less than Kenny Galladay, and I would probably take both these wide receivers over Kenny Galladay. So pretty amazing. Hats off. And we can talk about the implications here, what it means long term. Let's get to some more chats here. This is probably stars.
Good morning,
I'm just assuming.
Shane.
Shane always coming in.
Good morning, Miguel. Coming in with some stars on that one. So certainly appreciate you. And Lawrence picked up on our idea of maybe we do Thanksgiving for a little while. Like I said, I'm not doing anything else, but what am I going to do? Interrupt my son back there playing on it? If he's off, he's playing PlayStation, but as a dad, I don't think he plays PlayStation too much. I'm like, the kid's got straight A's and plays 2 sports. Am I going to tell him to stop screwing around? I'm like, you take care of your business. I'll leave you alone. I told him that, I think, when he was 9. Yeah, he taking it to heart.
Well, that's
so
good.
I'm free on Thanksgiving morning. So a little Friendsgiving. Sunny days coming in. Good morning, Nick and Scott. Really appreciate these morning shows for sure. Miguel, I missed this question last night. I was not here. I was up freezing my bum off. But I usually like hitting some of the questions that don't get asked, don't get answered on the next morning. So he said, I asked this question last night. Just wanted your take. After these signings, does Peyton have an idea of who he wants as head coach to bring in a QB?
Man, I'm not sure if this has any implication for head coach specifically. Obviously, if you're retaining good talent and you have less holes on your roster, that makes you look better for a head coach. But I don't think there's anybody specifically in mind that regardless of these moves, that he has in mind. But as far as quarterback, I do think this is definitely a recruiting tool to set up the Broncos to be aggressive at the quarterback position. I mean, every single move that they've made so far this season, from trading Von Miller to now retaining these wide receivers, to me really sets up to be aggressive this offseason at the quarterback. Now, what does that mean? I have, pie in the sky thoughts, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to be aggressive with those kind of guys and those kind of moves. I don't think Deshaun Watson's on their radar with everything going on there. He's on other teams' radars, but Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, maybe a Kirk Cousins. I'm guessing if those all fall, they'll call the Falcons about Matt Ryan as well, figuring like, hey, can we do some money stuff here to help you out to take Matt Ryan off your books? I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. We just saw Jared Goff last year traded with massive dead cap hit. So I guess if the Broncos want to pay extra for Matt Ryan, then they could. But I think if they don't get Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, then I see them pivoting to the NFL draft. Maybe that means bringing back Teddy Bridgewater and taking a guy in the first round or day 2 at some point. Not ideal in my world, I don't really love this quarterback class. I get the validity of taking a swing just because the quarterback class is a crapshoot. I mean, I remember a year ago, myself included, is Mac Jones, does he have enough arm talent? Does he have enough mobility? Looks pretty good right now. Granted, they're making it really easy for him, but he looks good right now. So there is some validity to just taking a swing to take a swing. And if they fall in love with a dude's personality and character and whatnot, then I could see it. But right now, I would say this is very much saying, hey, Russell Wilson, things aren't going so hot there up in there, Seattle. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, you're doing okay up there right now, but Devontae Adams maybe is going to leave. You haven't really had the best relationship in Green Bay, and you saw what we did for Elway at the end of his career. You saw what we did for Peyton at the end of his career. Why don't you just, sunny days in Denver here? We got more sun than Florida per year, and you've got some good pass catchers also. So come on over. So that's what I think is going to happen.
Well, and I think there's a precedent set there for you already with Tom Brady. Just follow the Tampa Bay playbook. Listen, we've got everything you need. Come on, why don't you come down here and come win a Super Bowl? Come win another Super Bowl. The other thing that, you talk about Matt Ryan. A lot of people say no on Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, with these weapons, if you give him any kind of time at all, would kill. He would kill with these weapons. I mean, don't sell Matt Ryan short based on what you've seen with the Atlanta Falcons. I was on what's today? Tuesday. I was on Sunday night with Zach, and I meant to talk a little bit about, because I've heard him use the phrase Dan Quinn was a horrible head coach a couple times. And I'm like, Dan Quinn had his problems, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But if you can stay in Atlanta for 4 or 5 seasons and finish with a winning record, that makes you like in a group of 2 in 50 years. So he's not quite as bad as a lot of people think.
Yeah, and he was beloved in that locker room.
I use that to say Matt Ryan hasn't been the problem in Atlanta for sure.
No, I agree with you there. And Matt Ryan, at his point in this career, he needs to have a top 15 offensive line to function and a run game to, give his offensive line some relief and not let those pass rushers pin their ears back. And Falcons don't have that. I mean, let's just point blank. They don't have that. So I think he would be fine here. I do worry that his arm is maybe going to plummet here. He looks like he's maybe going to reach that age where it's all of a sudden like, and you don't want that. But that's quarterbacks, right? If you don't have one, you sometimes have to take that risk.
Well, and it's never been his arm that has made him who he was anyway. And sometimes, I think Nolan Ryan was still throwing like 93 at 50 years old. Some of the arm strength doesn't fall off nearly as much as some of the other things, but there's such fine margins. Yeah. If you go from 100% to 90%, that's a huge difference in the NFL when you're talking about the world's best athletes.
Yep.
But Gary Leeds Palmer coming in with some stars. He says, love Broncos for breakfast. We love you too.
Thanks, Gary.
Draft or trade for the QB. So you've got a bunch of draft capital coming up. What would be your preference coming in here based on the Broncos' current roster and needs?
For me, number one would be Russell Wilson. He maybe you wouldn't put him in the exact same tier as Aaron Rodgers, but you have, 5-6 years difference in age. And that's 5-6 years of, having that quarterback under contract and being able to knock on the door. If you guys have heard me on here before, you know that I'm a big proponent of the best way to win a Super Bowl is to repeatedly put yourself in a position to win a Super Bowl, right? You can't it's really hard for that one single season to gear up and we're going to have the best defense of all time. Then you don't make it. And then poof, scattered to the wind, that roster, it's done. So having a quarterback like Russell Wilson for 6 to 8 years where you can build around him, I think could be my move. Obviously, if you can get Aaron Rodgers for a little bit less, then maybe I look into that. I'll take a 3-year window. I don't give a hoot because there's no guarantee to ever be in a window, right? So if you can get Aaron Rodgers on this roster right now, go for it. I don't have an issue with that. So Wilson, then Rodgers. After that, it's drafting for a quarterback for me. If you can't get those two, I'm a little bit trepidatious about Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a top 12 quarterback, but it's what do you have to pay Kirk Cousins? He's not a quarterback where you can pay him, 20% of your salary cap and lift everybody else around him. If you're paying him, 10, 15%, maybe we're talking here, but that's been the issue with the Vikings.
I don't think it'd cost even that much. If you even think 10%, you're talking a $20 million deal.
And he's getting 45 next year, I think.
But he's not going to get that again.
No. Yeah.
He's not going to get that again. He's into the journeyman stage of his tail end of his career.
Yeah.
Where, I think he could be on a 15 type of deal. Now, If you can get a 15 a year deal, get a 3-year deal, 45, 2 guaranteed, whatnot, while you draft a quarterback, I think that's the way to go in that scenario. But you ask yourself the question when you talk about trading away draft capital and how much would you do it? Say, is this roster one year away? I'm the general manager. I'm not the coach. Coach says, get me the quarterback now. I don't care what it costs.
Yeah.
Because the coach is thinking about tomorrow, not 3 years from now. But the general manager has to think longer term. Is there enough young talent on this team right now that I can afford to give up some draft picks for the next couple of years to get one guy? Yes. The answer for me on this team is yes.
Yeah.
Secondary to that is, okay, let's say I'm not going to spend all this money on a first-round draft pick. The money that you would put into a first-round draft pick could get you a couple of pretty good free agents.
Yeah.
So you're saving a little bit of money there. Obviously, you're going to have to pay more to a quarterback that you bring in. But you've got capital like this. You've got salary cap room to subsidize what you don't get in the draft with free agency. Yeah, I'd go for a quarterback. See what I can get. Again, for me, it always comes down to who are you going to get and what's going to cost. But my first priority would be, can I go get a quarterback in this offseason? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we're really entering a weird spot in sports in general, but specifically football. We saw it about a decade ago with player enlightenment in the NBA and realizing, hey, I'm LeBron effing James. I can pretty much, dictate what happens and where I want to go because I'm the guy who makes it work. And I think you're going to start to see that more and more with quarterbacks specifically going forward. So if Russell Wilson, says like, hey, this isn't working for me. What are the Seahawks look terrible. They don't have draft capital. They don't have cap space. And that division is getting probably tougher by the year. So I could see.
I'm in Seattle.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Actually, I think Seattle is one of the 5 best cities in the country. So I'm just teasing.
Man, I love Seattle. But every city has its warts. But I think we definitely have a chance at Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers if they want to come here. And I think this is very much about peacocking this Broncos situation, right? Putting the fly trap on. We're attracting these guys in here. So let's get to Jelly here real quick. Hey guys, do we pay Chubb? And what do you think about trading Noah Fant? How much we could get? Last, where most likely are we going to pick in the draft? Hashtag MHH. Thank you very much, Jelly, for getting 3 questions in here. I'll take the first one here. Do we pay Chubb? There's no reason to pay Chubb yet. You're going to see him hopefully at some point this season. They're going to be conservative. He just was taken off IR and is practicing yesterday. So that's good news, but I don't expect him to play this week. And you don't have to pay him yet because you have another year of control. So I don't think there's a reason right now to pay him. He has to show that he's healthy. Now, maybe a year from now, we get the same situation with Chubb as we just did with Sutton, where it's like, okay, we're going to pay Chubb a top 15 contract rather than a top 10 contract. And we like him enough that we could work something out where we give ourselves a little bit of flexibility, cap relief before he hits the market, but he still gets paid. Right. And so I think that's possible. But with another year of control left, with how injured he's been, I don't think there's any reason to pay him just yet. Also, we don't know what the scheme's going to be next year. I think, the NFL is mainly going to a 4-2-5 kind of look anyway. So if Chubb should be able to work in any defense, but let's say he's not ideal for whoever the defensive coordinator could be next year. That could change things. So no reason to pay Chubb just yet. We need to gather more information.
I agree because Nick answered this question for me at one point when I said, it's like, let's say he goes out on a contract year. You've got him under control for next season on his option year. He goes out and has a contract year. He goes out and kills it in his contract year. It's happened before.
Yep.
What do you do? Do you trust this guy to give him a multi-year deal, with his injury history? And Nick hit the obvious answer that I wasn't even thinking about because I don't like the option. But he goes, you tag him. You put a franchise tag on him. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yep.
I forgot about that. I think it's completely unfair to the player, restrictive of trade and movement and all that kind of stuff. But that's absolutely what you do with Chubb. So no, I don't offer him a contract yet because he hasn't been able to play. Let's say he comes back and has a nice flash in the pan 4 or 5 games. He gets 6 or 7 sacks and you're all excited. Show me again. Show me next year. Show me for 2022 that you can go out and get 12 to 15 sacks and play like a top 5 to 10 guy off the edge. And then I'm going to tag you. And then you're going to have to show me again. I'll give you $20 million to do it, but you're going to have to show me again. So no, I 100% agree with Nick on that. I think that's the best way to go. And what do you think about trading Noah Fant? How much would we get? 3rd round at best. Looking at the outside, from the outside in, forget where he was in the draft and all that stuff. Where is he now? At best, you're getting a third-round pick for Noah Fant. He just doesn't have the production to go with the lofty draft expectations right now.
Yeah, and you'd only have essentially 1 year left of control because I don't think you're going to have Noah Fant's 5th-year option exercised right now. I mean, he could kill it down the stretch and things could change. Also, for a tight end, maybe the 5th-year option is not as prohibitive as some other positions. But right now, I don't think you trade Noah Fant because I'm thinking about this team. Sometimes you need to think about it like stocks. And Broncos were able to buy low, surprisingly, on Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick. Buy shares of those guys for lower than what you think the market would be. That's great. But if you're trading Noah Fant right now, I think you're really selling low. He's 24 years old, 3rd year in the NFL. He's been dealing with injuries. I know he had the death of his mother this year. So those are ones that I just wouldn't sell low on the athlete that Noah Fant is. And we're seeing it this year. David Njoku, 4th-year tight end. He's exploding onto the scene for that offense. He's like, oh, well, maybe we should have exercised that 5th-year option on Njoku because he's probably going to get paid pretty handsomely this offseason. So I don't think there's any reason to trade Noah Fant just to get rid of young talent. And that hurts your ability to attract a quarterback as well, right? Like, I have Albert Okwuegbunam and Noah Fant, those athletic freaks where I can run 12 personnel and get linebackers in the box and isolate those guys. Money. I'm going to kill it. So I don't know. I wouldn't trade Noah Fant just yet. Last one, where the Broncos going to pick? I think the Broncos are going to pick somewhere between 12 and 18. So very much middle of the pack. That screams a team that finishes the season 7 to 9 wins.
Number 9 is 4-6 right now. Number 20 is 5-5.
Yep. Just a massive.
That's crazy. I mean, You could go one game could swing you 12 spots right now.
Yep.
So, I think you're looking at 7-10 at best to finish the season.
At best, only 2 more wins at best.
Chris coming in with the coffee stars. Appreciate you, Chris. That 7-10 probably gets you closer to that 12 mark. But like I said, right now the difference between top 10 and just outside of the top 20 is one game. So, but going through the roster, I picked out one that you'd think is a win, the Lions, and then maybe a swing game between the Bengals at home and the Raiders to get 2 more wins and finish 7-10.
Yeah. Now it's I think 8 wins is very possible still.
Where's the other one, dude?
That they're gonna the AFC.
The other games are the Chargers twice and the Chiefs twice.
I think they're going to beat the Chargers one of the times.
Okay.
Chargers are a good team, but the AFC West is typically something where, you can throw out the record, you can get some wild games. And that's just true for the NFL this season in general. I mean, how often has it actually been chalk? So I think the Broncos have a chance to beat the Chargers in one of those games. Also, the Chargers don't really have home field advantage in Los Angeles. If anything, there's going to be a good grouping of Bronco fans there. So I think they got a chance to beat the Chargers in one of those games. Even though the Chargers are better, I just don't see the... I wouldn't put any of those in Penn. The only one I'd put in Penn for the Broncos losing is probably at Kansas City. And Adam Schefter today announced that the Broncos at Kansas City game could be flexed to Sunday Night Football next week. So hey, maybe the Broncos are going to get some prime time. Not at home, unfortunately, but and at Arrowhead at night, which is rough, but it is what it is. We got Mac 85 City coming in here with $5 saying if the Raiders beat the Cowboys, then I don't want Kellen Moore. That would mean his scheme doesn't work versus the AFC West. Man, I have a hard time with this because I like what you're saying here in general, but a voice in the back of my head is screaming sample size. You have 3 games of that, and I think the Cowboys actually put up okay numbers versus the Chargers. I don't remember what the score was on that one off the top of my head, but it's about the Jimmys and Joes, not the X's and O's when it comes down to it. So I hear what you're saying here, Mac 85 City, and maybe this is something where you have to ask a few questions about it. But it doesn't go further for me than asking questions about why did this happen in the interview. I don't think it would exclude him unless he gave an absolute BS terrible answer. That might do it for me. But what do you think here, Scott?
Well, they beat the Chargers.
Yeah, but was the offense terrible?
I'm looking at it right now. I'm not making a decision on a head coach based on the results of just a couple of games like that at all. I like to think, it's a team game from holder to general manager. I tend to put as much blame on the general manager of the team building as anybody when it comes to, whys, who's, what's, and whys. In the case, as long as the guys are playing hard for him. But saying the scheme doesn't work, that's a tough pill to swallow when you're talking about the number one offense in the league. Again, what's the big picture, and not just well, he couldn't beat the Broncos. I don't want that guy. Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't want you wouldn't want Dak Prescott because he had a bad game against those guys either. You wouldn't want him at quarterback. Couldn't beat the AFC West. No, I'll take Dak.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it, but that wouldn't be enough for me to sway my decision one way or another.
Yep. I mean, you do have to ask about it in the interview, but and if he gives a bad answer, then maybe that's something to look into. But again, it's a small sample size. We got Tommy coming in here saying, what does the contracts of Patrick and Sutton mean for Jeudy, Fant, and Hamler? Are they being pushed to prove it? What is the front office saying to these signings? Well, for Jeudy specifically, the Broncos contracts of Patrick and Sutton line up almost exactly for when Jeudy is going to need to get paid. So Jeudy goes from cost-controlled rookie contract for 4 or 5 years to second contract in the league when Patrick becomes a free agent, and possibly when Cortland becomes a free agent too, because I need to see what that contract looks like. Maybe that 4th year is easy to get out of. That's typically the case for these contracts. You lop off 1 year on the back end, and that gives that team flexibility to move on with the way guaranteed money works. As far as Fant goes, I mean, he's got to prove it. I'm not sure what this means for Fant as far as contracts. This one actually could be a big deal for Fant, because maybe you only have so much money to pay to your pass catchers. Some teams have a budget per position. Maybe you're doing it per pass catchers or weapons, and then you have less pie to pay Fant. So that's one to think of. Hamler, you still have 2.5 years of control. We need to see Hamler back on the field before we even have any idea what the contract's going to be. I know that he was walking around on crutches yesterday at Broncos practice, so that's good news. I guess you're going to see him out there. I'm not expecting to see him even the beginning of next season. If he does, hats off to him. That would be incredible. But I'm guessing it's going to be a slow go for him early on next year. And we're not even going to get a full read on what Hamler is until the last year of his rookie contract in 2023. But there's no reason to give up on him yet. And this would be, selling low again if you were moving on. So hopefully Hamler.
No one would pick him up. I mean, right now he's damaged goods.
Yep. Maybe like a 7.
I think you did this. I was actually scanning through the chat, so apologize if I'm going to repeat it. But it means for Jeudy is he can get paid when Tim Patrick's contract is up. That's the timing on it. And the other part of this is George Paton said in his presser yesterday, he says this sets an example for the young guys, and he called out Jeudy. I know he called out Surtain, and he called out Javonta Williams. He called out 2 rookies, saying this is a good example for the guys that have come through, knowing that these guys have worked hard. We are going to take care of them. That's a precedent we want to set. And absolutely, absolutely. You don't want to say, man, I'm just counting the days until I can get out of here and go play for a real organization. Ask me how I know what that looks like. It sets a good precedent for the younger players coming in, even in an environment like this where you have so much control over the players, that they want to get theirs too, and they know that the path is there for them. So absolutely, that's what the front office is saying. 1, we like these guys. 2, we're going to take care of our guys, and those are both really, really good messages.
Yeah, I agree. And also you got guys who want to stick around for this Broncos team and this organization that took a discount to stick around. So, I mean, it's a good situation. I know that a lot of people in Denver, I mean, I think 8,000 to 9,000 tickets are available on the secondary market for this upcoming Broncos-Chargers game, just to kind of show you where the fan base is at right now. I mean, I know it's the weekend after Thanksgiving. Some people are getting away. Maybe they don't want to freeze their butts off in a game, which they're not really loving this team right now. But these 2 players are buying in on the Broncos and buying in on themselves too, right? They're getting a big payday, but I think it's a good situation, and paying the guys that have been in the locker room doing all the right things, producing on the field, even when the quarterback play is subpar. I mean, that's a great situation you want, and you can build on that. And that's one thing also, circling back to a question earlier, how do you feel about Paton, George Paton so far? I love that he is rewarding the guys that are doing the right things in the locker room. I think that says a lot. The Broncos kind of had started to develop a reputation where they're going to play hardball with everybody no matter what, and they're going to drag you along until the 9th inning every single contract. And now they're paying their guys beforehand. They're giving them deals that they're accepting, and retaining in-house talent that's doing the right stuff. If you do the right things and you perform, you will be rewarded. And I think that goes a long way in the locker room for organizational buy-in. And it's a good thing going forward.
So I got accused of interrupting you too much. And I agree. I've watched it. I'm like, you know what? I do interrupt too much. And the reason why is because I'm ADD enough that if I don't say what's on my mind, I'll forget it. I'll move on.
Guilty.
So
Guilty.
I want to get that in there. So 35 minutes later, you just reminded me of a point I wanted to make, and I wrote it down this time. One of the things that I found was interesting, and I went looking for it, because who led the press conference about the signings of Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton?
Wasn't it Peyton?
It was George Payton.
Yeah.
It was Peyton.
Yep.
Who wasn't? Well, and this could be planned. It could be planned. That's fine. But there were 4,000 words in the transcript of that press conference. You know how many times I saw a reference to Vic Fangio?
Once.
One. There was one. And it was from Peyton. It was from Peyton saying, we'd also like to thank Vic, and especially, and I don't remember the coach's, the receiver coach's name, for developing Court and Pat and Tim, something like that. That was it in 4,000 words. Why did you choose the Broncos? Why did you sign? Were you interested in looking at the open market? What does this mean to you? All this stuff. 4,000 words. One mention of Vic Fangio. If you needed any more signs, tea leaves to read them. You got a new coach next year.
Yeah, barring something miraculous happening. I mean, God, I don't like to live in a world of absolutes, right? I'm not a Sith for you Star Wars nerds out there, because anything is possible. The Broncos could go on here and win some games, and everybody's buying in. Maybe that's just delaying the inevitable, but it's something you have to at least consider, right? But to me, yeah, this is a team that we don't have the workings of the locker room or whatnot, but everything that I've heard is that Fangio, the shtick of the old ball coach, who is, curmudgeon-y as heck, only works if you're winning, right? Bill Belichick can do it because he's incredible. Fangio doesn't have enough skins on the wall to do that.
Well, and it's not even that. He's basically, I've used this phrase before. He's a rookie head coach. This is his first head coaching gig, if I'm not mistaken. And he acts like a 30-year-old that's not sure he belongs.
Yeah.
It's very insecure, very petty. And a player's coach will take all the blame and deflect. He might cut your butt 2 weeks later, but he's not going to call you out publicly for it.
Yeah.
And everything ends up being me. No, that doesn't fly. It doesn't fly at all. You can be in charge and still give credit and take blame as a head coach. It's kind of your job. And I don't see that at all. I don't see that at all with this guy. Jelly coming back in again. So double dipping. Appreciate you. Double dipping the jelly. Pros and cons for your top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. Yeah, I'm going to keep the supers coming. Love your guys' takes. Well, we're here for them. Pros and cons for your top 3 QBs in the draft. I'm not deep enough into the weeds to say why I would like these guys. Right now, it's kind of a gut feeling for me. My pros, I like Sam Howell. I like what I like what I see in him. Facing his accuracy, arm strength, long ball, all those things look good to me. Malik Willis, quick release. The cons on him are a little easier. I've watched him a little bit more. Holds the ball too long, tries to do too much because he's way the best player on a bad team. I used to call that was the same reason why I thought Jay Cutler struggled, and then I kind of just figured out Jay Cutler just didn't have much of a football IQ.
I think he does have a football IQ. I don't think he has the he didn't care to be great. I think that's the biggest issue with Cutler.
He's Nuke LaLoosh, man. I mean, he's $1 million arm and 10-cent head. It's like, you know what? I've got enough talent and arm strength to do what I want. And I don't, and that goes back, but that goes back to your point saying, I don't have to get better, and there was an interview recently with Mike Vick saying basically the same thing. So I never really had to worry about film study until I got out of prison and my legs weren't what they were. I wasn't the best player on the field simply by putting on my helmet.
Yep.
That's what I saw out of Jay Cutler. He never took that next step, but for one reason or another. And then, Matt Corral, every time I try to watch him, they're running the ball.
Yeah, with him.
So I'll flip through, and Ole Miss is like, okay, well, there's the 7th straight running play. I'm like, not really telling me a whole lot about this quarterback here. So we'll know more about him later. But I watched Cam Rising, cool name. Now there's a football name. I watched him a little bit. I like what I see there a little bit, but I haven't really gotten into them too much to say yes or no, this is why on these guys yet.
And a few more names to toss out here. Desmond Ritter started the year a little bit erratic with his accuracy. I think he's actually been on a pretty good heater these last few weeks, and he has a lot of starts. He is a very mobile quarterback as well, and he's a pretty cerebral quarterback. I actually really enjoy how he goes through his progressions. I don't want to throw out the name Dak Prescott at Mississippi State, but it's there's some similarities there as far as everything is on him offensively because they don't really have weapons on the outside. So the offense runs through him and he has to put the ball in the right spot to do that. I think you could run a Jalen Hurts offense with Desmond Ritter to some success early on as rookie contract. Another name to think about is Carson Strong. Nevada, big arm, very limited athlete. It reminds me a lot of Jared Goff. The big thing with Carson Strong is that he's had 3 surgeries on one knee, and there's some worries that knee is degenerative. So you could see him drop a lot in the draft because of that. And Kenny Pickett is the other one, a little older, 8 1/4 inch hand size, which I think would be the 0th percentile for hand size of a quarterback ever measured. So that's a big concern for him. Yeah, it's like 9 inches is the cutoff. So he's 3/4 of an inch smaller, reportedly, than the cutoff for what a lot of teams have. So that's scary. He's also older for a quarterback prospect. I think he'll be 23 as a rookie, which isn't terrible, but not also ideal. You're looking for reasons like, oh, why shouldn't I take this guy? He hasn't had good seasons until this year. He's older. He has the small hands, but his tape is mostly really good. So those are all names to consider. Again, this circling back to earlier, my point. I don't want to take the first guy on this list. I want to take the last guy on this list. I want to take the best value on any of these dudes. So if that means taking one, trading up in the back end of the first round to take one, or taking one in the second round, sign me up. I think that's the best value on this one.
And then maybe go get a Kirk Cousins as a free agent quarterback for a year or two while these guys develop. I think you could have 2 new quarterbacks. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if you've got 2 new quarterbacks next year at all.
Yep. And I want to share this real quick. So I keep seeing this comment in here about show me a game or a tackle from a quarterback. This one from Ryan Tannehill. Amazing. Pick 6.
Under pressure, and it's
watch this hit from Tannehill.
Tipped and picked off. Maurice Hurst off to the races. Tannehill puts him down at about the 25-yard line.
Okay, sorry, I just had to get that out there because that hit is stuck in my mind a little bit thinking about Teddy Bridgewater. But
I don't want to get into this.
Okay, that's fine.
We covered Teddy Bridgewater extensively last week, and that play was not good enough. It'll never be good enough. I don't have any excuses. I don't want to make any excuses. I'm not going to make any excuses. That was poor. He said it was poor. Let's see better. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, I agree with you. But that was more to pump up Tannehill because, man, what an awesome hit that was from him, getting blocked and then coming all the way around and tattooing that defensive tackle. God, I love it. What a football play. We'll see. I think at some point we're going to see Teddy get another chance to make a tackle, and I think he's going to make that tackle. So the team seems like they've moved on from it. I think we should do the same. But either way, Tannehill, good play on that one. Good job not giving up. And let's move forward. So the Broncos now, looking at this roster holistically, you just retained 2 wide receivers here. You have a Jerry Jeudy who's going to be healthy again next season. So knock on wood. So you probably I would move wide receiver off the board early on in the draft, unless you absolutely love a guy. Like, let's say, I don't know how much Alabama you've had a chance to watch this season, but Jamison Williams is probably the most similar to KJ Hamler in this draft class as far as a speed threat. If Jamison Williams is there in the second round, I don't have any issue taking him because I think he's that caliber of player and you want to add that speed threat to this team. But now that wide receiver is off the board, where does this team fascinate you as far as what directions they can go in the offseason, in the draft, et cetera, because they got capital, they got draft picks, and let's take quarterback off the board here because obviously that's the obvious one.
Well, it's going to sound, I can just play a clip from us talking about the Falcons. I go right tackle and edge. I think you got to go offensive tackle on here. The money that you're paying Garrett Bowles is astounding right now. The similarities for him and Jake Matthews are top 5 paid, middle of the pack at best right now performance. Garrett Bowles they've both shown to be better, but are they going to get back to that level? And then right tackle, you got to do better. I said, if I have any criticism at all of Peyton is, with all of that money, could you have done better? Especially once you got a refund on Juwan James. Could you have done better at the right tackle position in the offseason than what you did? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm asking that question. That's what I feel like you could have done better, but I don't know that for sure. I'm not in those meetings. I don't know. We tried and 3 guys turned us down. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're going into the season right now with Bradley Chubb, who you can't necessarily trust on 1-year deal. Malik Reed, who is a good number 2. Jonathan Cooper, who is still a rookie, showed good flashes. And then, you've picked up some nice middle round picks. I wouldn't be afraid to go inside linebacker, second and third, somewhere in that area. And then I think you got to come out of this draft with another running back.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I wouldn't be totally opposed, depending on what the market is, to retaining Melvin Gordon. I know that a lot of people roll their eyes because Melvin Gordon has been disliked from Broncos country since he was signed, because a lot of people thought Philip Lindsay deserved that money. What's Philip Lindsay doing right now? I don't even know. For the Texans, man, pit of misery there. And then Javonta Williams trading up. Everybody wants to see the young guy, but outside the fumbles, Gordon has been a solid back. He's got to clean up those gosh darn fumbles, especially in the worst times. But he's been solid. So if they can bring him back for relatively cheap, I would be interested. But yeah, half.
Yeah, because he's not going to get. He'll be lucky to get. Sorry to interrupt. He'll be lucky to get half of that $8 million. I think he'll be on a $2.5 or $3 million deal next year. So you bring him back, considering what you're paying Javonta Williams, but also think about what you're paying Javonta Williams. So we're going to give this old guy 3 times what we're paying you, but you're our number 1. That's not necessarily the message you want to send either. But a nice discount for a veteran. Again, it's going to be half at best, because you start sorting by free agents available, and he's one of the better free agents that are going to be available, but it's going to be $2, $3, $4 million, I think.
Yeah. The question is, does he want to get a lion's share of the carries? So we'll see. But I think running back is definitely up there. I would not want to use a premium pick on the running back again. And also I think this team, they like Mike Boone as well. So I think they would be okay with a later round rookie running back, leaning more into Javonta Williams, and then Mike Boone versus a rookie would be interesting. I agree with you about running back. I think defensive tackle is another position the Broncos could look at early in the draft. Depending on how the board falls, there are 2 guys on Georgia's defensive line that are worth a sniff. Jordan Davis, nose tackle. Maybe if you're picking in like the 20 to 25 range, I'd be interested there. And then Trevon Walker, who's pretty raw still, but he's like 6'5", 280, and they have plays where he's dropping in coverage and flipping his hips. Like, this guy's an incredible athlete, really an incredible athlete.
Upside.
Yeah, God, he's just figuring it out there. DeMarvin Leal, another one to make sense. And why that would make sense for the Broncos to take a defensive lineman maybe early in this class. Defensive tackles typically take 2 to 3 years before they really start hitting their stride. And that lines up perfectly with Shelby Harris's contract. That lines up perfectly with Draymond Jones's contract as well. So you're just setting yourself up at a developmental position and investing in the trenches, which this team hasn't really done much trench investments in with premium resources in the last 3 seasons. So I think it's about time again to do that. I agree with you on offensive tackle. My understanding right now is the Broncos would be comfortable retaining Bobby Massey and Calvin Anderson and letting them compete at right tackle. Obviously, if the board falls a certain way, that changes things. But I think they would be at least in a position where they're not tackle or bust in the draft. You want to go into the draft where you're comfortable at every single spot, so that way you're not forced to take somebody that's lower on your board, because if you don't take them, your roster is sunk.
They're in a position to obviously go best player available, which is what some people say you do anyway. But it's nice when best player available also fits a need, and you're willing to shuffle your board 2 or 3 spots to do that. So if you're sitting there at 15 and there's a tackle there, and you're deciding between a tackle, a corner, a wide receiver, and a running back, you're going to take the tackle. You're going to take the offensive tackle in that spot, because I think that's the place where you could get the most immediate, and frankly, you could use another interior lineman.
Yeah.
So go back down into the third, fourth round, and you could use another interior lineman as well. We've talked about, I want to say Miners. Thank you.
Yeah. Miners.
Quinn Miners, he was drafted to help compete at center. And we talked about also these rookies and their schedule that they have before they have to camp. They don't know where they're going. They're training for Senior Bowls. They're training for combines. They're not training on how to get better at their position until they actually show up in camp. And then it's, we're playing games. So he's going to have a full year to train for guard or center. I think guard's probably going to be but I wouldn't put it past the Broncos to go with another interior lineman as well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely viable, and I would really like to use one of my draft crushes in this class is North Carolina State left tackle Ikem Ekwonu, who has just been absolutely kicking butt in the run game this year. He's so powerful, a little bit short, but just he's got vines, and he has tackle guard versatility. So if you could get him and you want to play him at guard out of the gate, awesome. If you want to play him at tackle, great. And I think you could really lean into the run game in Javonta Williams and becoming a team that is as quarterback independent functionally as possible. And looking at these teams right now across the league, who is getting it done offensively without the quarterback? It's not that these teams that have incredible weapons across the boards. It's these teams with huge investments and premium offensive lines. The Eagles, right? They're getting it done right now. Jalen Hurts right there, and weapon. They have Devonta Smith, but the weapons are not great.
I'm going to read off the top. Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
I'm going to read off the top offenses, and you tell me when we get to a place that doesn't have a big quarterback.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys, Tampa,
big quarterback.
Baltimore,
big quarterback.
Kansas City,
big quarterback.
Buffalo,
big
Rams,
big quarterback. Josh Allen's been struggling. Vikings. There's one offensive line. A lot of an offensive line investment. They have invested in the premium resources as well. The last 3 weeks, the number one offense in EPA per play is the Eagles, which is maybe makes you feel a little bit better about the Broncos getting beat up by the Eagles offense. Also, another team that's been killing it recently as well as the weather shifts, game changes. A team that does not have a franchise quarterback, in my opinion, the Indianapolis Colts. All these teams have incredible investments in the offensive line. I mean, you can go back, turn the clock back too. Dak Prescott on his rookie season, it's the offensive line. So I think that if you cannot go for the quarterback, I think you lean very heavily into the offensive line. Make that your identity. And what's Javonta Williams' struggle right now? It's reading the lines. It's finding the gaps and squeezing through those gaps. You just make bigger gaps that sustain longer. Boom. Now Javonta, you don't have to worry about it. So that's my thought. If the Broncos cannot get a premium edge rusher in this class, or they get one of the top quarterbacks in via trade or free agency.
So Jelly comes back in again with the triple dip. Say next year Bryce and Fuller are gone. Are we okay with that room? Fuller, absolutely. Right now on your active roster, he's your highest cap hit guy. I just sorted it. He's your highest on your active roster because Glasgow and Bowles were ahead of him. Now Fuller is your highest guy, and he's lucky to see the field right now. What about Callahan? He was traded recently. There was a guy that was traded. It was like your 7th round pick that you've like.
Oh, that was Kerry Vincent Jr. Right? Yeah, Kerry Vincent Jr. was traded for a 6th round pick. So they drafted him in the 7th.
A pick in that guy. He's like, well, what's wrong with Kerry Vincent Jr.? I'm like, well, walk it back a little bit and say I just traded a 2021 7th for a 2022 6th. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good move, right?
And this draft is supposed to be deeper than last year's draft because a lot of guys turned for that extra year of eligibility because of what's going on in the world.
Is necessarily gone?
He's been so injured. I don't know if he's ever finished a year without injury. So if you could sign him for like maybe a 1 or 2 year deal without a lot of guarantees, I would be interested because he is a really good slot corner. But also, is he going to be a fit for if the Broncos have a new defensive scheme next year as well? He's very good. He's a very good fit for what Fangio likes to do. He's followed Fangio everywhere he's gone. He was with the Bears with Fangio, and now he's with Denver with Fangio. So I could see him moving on because of that. But if you can bring back Callahan for relatively cheap and not a lot of guarantees, I'd be interested. The one here about talking about the cornerback room that we need to see is Michael Jamutia. He was just activated off of IR, a hamstring injury that was supposed to sideline him, 3 to 5 weeks, and now we're.
What did we say when it happened, though?
Yeah, those tricky.
When it happened, when you hear hamstring, you go, "Oh crap!" You don't know. It's like, you're glad it's not the knee because it looked bad when it happened.
Yep.
But you see hamstring, and hamstrings are just like voodoo. You just don't know when they're gonna. It can be something that could plague you for years. Honestly, a dodgy hamstring. So, if they're taking their time to get him back because of a hamstring, great. Good. Because this isn't the. If you're sitting there at 7-3 instead of 5-5, maybe he gets a little bit more of a push. But no, don't rush him.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you on that one. And Jeremy talking about Callahan, he's a really good fit if your scheme involves covering guys. I don't know if you were watching the Buccaneers game last night, but Todd Bowles likes to use safety cornerback hybrids with a little bit more size that can come down and from that cover 3 look and come downhill and tackle. I don't know if Callahan's so much a fit for somebody like that for that specific body type that they're looking for. So again, it comes down to what the contract would look like anyway. You want to get good cover players. But for me, I want to see what Michael Jamutia looks like down the stretch this season because you have 2.5 years of control left. You used a 3rd-round pick on him. So that's one that I want to see. Either way, though, cornerback is a volume position. You have Patrick Surtain. That's great. You got Darby on 1 more year of control. If the best player on the board for the Broncos pick 18, let's say, is a cornerback, take the gosh darn cornerback. You need to have guys there, and the AFC West is quickly becoming the Big 12 in the NFL, given, the Chiefs essentially run 10 personnel all the time. I would imagine that the Chargers are going to start to run more 11, 10 personnel going forward with Herbert, with how he's looking from shotgun and throwing it down the field when they give it to him. Derek Carr, how good the Raiders were when they had Henry Ruggs versus without Henry Ruggs. I think they're undefeated when Henry Ruggs is on the field and haven't won a game or have been terrible when Ruggs is not playing. So having cornerbacks, you need them. In the AFC West, you need 3 to 4 good ones. So if it's the best player on the board, giddy up. Take them. They're too valuable.
And injuries.
Yep.
How many have we gone through any part of the season this year we said, oh, we were really deep there and not felt shallow at some point?
Yeah.
The injuries have taken a huge toll. And Travis, I like this comment. I wanted to highlight this one, just saying, I feel like Jones is a system type QB. Not knowing who the coaching staff is season, I wouldn't risk. I wouldn't want a reclamation project in Tua right now. Tua is not going way back. Tua is not Phillip Rivers, or, the Drew Brees type. Mm-hmm. Where San Diego had Drew Brees and came off of him. I'm not 100% convinced on Tua, and they're not 100% convinced on Tua, which is why they've been shopping him and talking about getting some other guys. And they're not far enough off, and Tua has shown enough that it would cost you a 1st-round pick at least to get him. And I'm not there. I'm not there with him yet. I'd rather spend some money on a quarterback and then draft a guy like Malik Willis and let him sit for a year and see where we're at. And TD, I was going to say when I saw this pop up, said this seemed like a newer name to me. Mm-hmm. And he says, it's been a long time, but I just want to show some love after going through a lot. Well, thank you for the love. Holiday seasons can be tough. We hope you are doing well. And I know this always elevates my mood every time we're here. It's kind of like a workout. Sometimes you're like, I don't feel like going to work out. And then when you're there working out, you're like, why would I ever? This is awesome. And sometimes the stuff that makes you feel bad is so easy to do. And the stuff that makes you feel great is really hard to get started. And that doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah. So we're certainly glad you're here. Appreciate the super, and enjoy the holidays, and hope things are going well for you.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you 100% on that one. And we got EJ saying, Nick, will there be a Broncos for Breakfast show Thursday? I need to talk with the boss. Obviously, I don't know if I'm going to be needed in the kitchen or anything like that. We're having
6:30 in the morning. You're not.
I have no idea. I need to clear it with, I know better than to commit to anything before communicating, right? I've been in a relationship long enough that's communication is key. I would say a soft yes right now, because I want to hang out and talk some more football. And we haven't talked any Chargers other than, singing Justin Herbert's praises because he's a football throwing god. Oh my God. Did you see the throw that he made?
I got home at 9:00 and got in a hot shower last night. So
okay.
I didn't watch any of the game last night.
It was Sunday night, not Monday night. Last night was Tampa Bay. Either way, you're busy. You haven't seen it. Man, Justin Herbert's arm talent is next level. It is incredible. He throws a cover 2 hole shot, like between the two safeties. And like, that's a throw that nobody makes because those guys are closing down, and he throws it 35 yards on a rope and those safeties can't even react. It gets there so quickly. He's unbelievable. Anyway, I say we're going to go with a solid yes on that. As a veggie, what will I do for a Thanksgiving meal? Stuffing.
I'll answer that one.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
This is easy. The sides at Thanksgiving are the best part. I don't care. I never cared about the turkey. I'm like, they put so much effort in the turkey, I'll eat the turkey. But man, I go green bean casserole. I go mashed potatoes. I go, the rolls. God, that's enough. I can make a meal out of just those. Pumpkin pie, man.
mac and cheese? Is that on your Thanksgiving?
Ours
table?
is usually like a green bean casserole,
Okay.
and the mashed potatoes takes care. So we don't hit the mac and cheese too much. Somebody brings mac and cheese though, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
Eat it.
My mom and now my wife, big cheese fans, big dairy fans, and my mom makes a baked mac and cheese that has like breadcrumbs on it with a little bit of like spice to it as well. Oh my god,
No,
so
I
good.
don't know how. I'm a vegetarian, not a vegan. I don't know how people go vegan. That's way too much work for me. I gotta eat, man. I gotta get my carbs and cheese in there, or else I'm gonna starve.
Yeah, I love cheese. Not a vegetarian. The wife is a vegetarian. I eat way less meat than I used to, which is that makes a difference. So I'm not going to be here to preach at you guys about your diets, but I'm a big turkey fan. I will not stand for turkey slander. The dark meat on the turkey is one of my favorite meals of the year. Some people are like, oh, just get rid of the turkey. Let's go with ham.
The dark meat is so much juicier than the light meat.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, my grandma used to.
It's like me talking about good beers now. I don't drink beer anymore. I'm not going to talk turkey.
Oh, let's talk some beer. No, guys, we're at an hour. We got a real quick question here from Todd. Zach Harrison on your radar, Nick, and is he a fit for Denver? Zach Harrison is really long. He doesn't have a lot of bend, but he looks like a guy you could take day 2. If the Broncos are looking for a heavier edge setter with length that can play like a 4-3 edge, then Zach Harrison from Ohio State is on my radar. But I don't know. I think that's a big one for me. We got to dig more into these edge rushers. Scott, I know you're busy. Did you watch any college football this weekend?
No, I drove to Tennessee on Saturday for a soccer game, and then drove to Knoxville for Sunday's soccer game, and then came home, and then did the show with that's where I was Sunday night. I did the show with Zach on Sunday night.
Okay. Well, let me just say, as we're talking quarterbacks on here, and I did the show with Carl Saturday night, it's really frustrating to talk quarterbacks when far and away the best 2 quarterbacks on the field this last week are 2023 quarterbacks. Bryce Young throwing for 500 yards, CJ Stroud 98.6 quarterback QBR out of 100, which is like the highest ever QBR against Michigan State and their number 7 overall team. He had like 400 yards and 6 touchdowns in the first half. Oh my God. And also shout out to Travis here. Utah win. Won me some money. Oregon's a fraud. I knew they were fraudulent. Their offense is not good enough. And Utah's been clicking. They've been amazing. But yeah, no, man, it's really frustrating. It's too bad. You talk about the totalitarianism in the NFL and whatnot. The fact that some of these guys have to play 3 years in college football. I know that they have the NIL now,
I call it the unholy coalition between the NFL and NCAA.
Yep. Well, anyway, if Bryce Young and CJ Stroud were eligible in this draft class, 1 and 2 overall, and the Lions are very upset about this, I would imagine.
Well, we saw it last year where people opted out. I've been saying that's going to happen for years. Now they got the opportunity to do that, where they did. They're like, I'm not going to play this year. I'm going to wait for. Why am I going to risk all this to play a game and risk my $50 million?
Yep.
Instead you get guys that just kind of play half-ass their 3rd year and take a time off, which is dangerous. You get hurt that way. But it's something's got to change. It's getting closer now, or at least these guys can make some money off the fact that they're making other people billions of dollars, literally billions.
Yeah.
So I feel a little bit better about that. But real quick story, and then we'll get out of here. I was standing up at the opening up in Oregon. The opening's the biggest amateur high school football event in the country that's not, a state playoff type of thing. Top 100 players there at Nike's campus. They're there whining and dining them and getting them all Nike'd up so that they can sign these guys when they come out. We're going to stay a little bit longer for John. But I had one of the dads was there saying, "Oh man, these the facilities, you wouldn't believe it. They had this, and this." And I kind of said out of the corner of my mouth, I looked at him and said, "It's easy to build nice facilities. We don't have to pay your employees." He kind of looked at me. About 10 minutes later, he comes back to me. He said, "I've been thinking about what you're saying, and you're right." I'm like, "I know I'm right. They don't pay the labor. So it's easy to dress them up and put them in all these nice fancy facilities and wine and dine them and do all this stuff because they don't have to pay them." Anyway, let's move on. And John,
and
I'm saying John coming in here, like I said, we'll stay a little bit longer if John's going to keep coming in like this.
Yeah. John says, "I agree with Scott. I would like to see the Broncos hire Dabble because of his track record of quarterback development. I wouldn't mind seeing Willis or Pickett or either bring in a veteran quarterback. By the way, Scott Huntsville, Alabama here. I think Brian Dabble maybe didn't miss his shot, but like, has anybody watched the Bills this year with Josh Allen outside of that Kansas City game? He's not been very good. He's been struggling. He's regressed somewhat, which is not super shocking given the stats he's put up in his career versus last season. But I don't know. I think Dabble maybe missed his shot to get
a number 5 offense with a bad running back room. Put Najee Harris back there. I think you froze a little bit. There you go. They could use a running back in a big way, and they still have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th rated passing offense. That's not bad. And I appreciate the Southerners, John. So and people say, why do all the Southern schools, why do you all claim, the South, SEC this, SEC that? No one else does that. I'm like, do you see the way the national media treats the South? That's why. Because you all treat us as one big group. By the God, we're going to band together and be one big group.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, my internet's saying that it's probably time for me to get going. I think people are waking up and starting to get online, so maybe that's freaking it out. I don't know. One last point before you mentioned the opt-out earlier for college players. I agree with you. I think that's probably inevitable coming on the way. Really needs to be the case for running backs. I think there are 3 freshman running backs in the college football right now that every single one of them maybe play next year. No freaking reason for them to play their junior year. Don't play. There's the Wisconsin running back who is 6'3", 240 pounds. He's 17 years old. Oh my God, what an app! He looks like Derrick Henry out there. Texas has an incredible running back, and Ohio State has a running back by the name of Henderson. And none of those guys should play their junior year.
Carries in 3 years, and that's 600. Too many when you're talking about the wear and tear on a running back. Leonard Fournette was one of those guys.
Yep.
Leonard Fournette was 6'1", 220 pounds as a high school senior and a 100 meters champion running the 10.7s, 10.5s. He was as ready to move, and Adrian Peterson was before him. Leonard Fournette was as ready to move on to the next level as you could possibly get. And I'm not saying that people can do that, but let's give them the choice. I wish they all were like Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, everybody's eligible. You're eligible. Nick, you're eligible. It's up to me to convince you to come out. It's up to me to convince you as the billion-dollar industry to say, I want you to give up your amateur dreams and your college and all this stuff to come play for me, and I'm going to pay you this much to do it. You don't have to say, let's see, maybe they want me. I think I'm good enough. Not good enough in school, that's for sure. So I'm going to go to the NFL. Well, nobody wants you, kid. So you can get drafted, I think, 5 or 6 times. I'd have to count them up. But you can get drafted 5 times in Major League Baseball without renouncing your eligibility.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are. But again, 3 running backs, and specifically for the running back position. Like, how much more do those guys have to prove? But if you have the athleticism and you can show that you block and the body's already there, you're good to go. You're as good as you're ever going to be. So Bijan Robinson.
You need him to play for your favorite team. Don't give me that crap.
Yeah. Yep. Specifically running back. There are 3 of them though. True freshmen. Man, somebody needs to talk to these guys. There's no reason to play. You're going to you could get hurt. You're losing lots of money. Maybe there should be like a NFL committee where they do a case by case basis.
Well, they're able to buy insurance policies that can pay them 7 figures. That helps. Mm-hmm. That helps. They get the Lloyd's of London insurance policies, but I think, but still, it's not the same.
I agree with you all the way. Well, guys, we need to get out of here. Fun to talk a little bit of college football and NFL, and good news today, right? Broncos off a bye week, and they come out winners because they retain Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton under market value. Those guys are probably going to get $3 to $4 million per year more if they would have hit the market this offseason. But now they're here. They're locked in for Denver for at least 3 more years for Patrick and 4 years for Sutton. This team is set up very nicely. Just a quarterback away. I know that's true for a lot of teams, but this team is really set up to be aggressive this offseason. They have the cap space. They have the draft capital. They have pretty much as good of an offensive infrastructure as you could realistically hope for. Maybe the offensive line could be a little better, but again, whatever. So it's the time.
Peter,
it's
real
time.
Quick. Thanks for the stars, Peter. Welcome in. If you have any questions after the fact, hit them up in the chat. On YouTube, though, I say that, and I don't go back through the Facebook chat because it's a little tough to do. I do go back through the YouTube chats on the Mile High Huddle YouTube page.
Okay, and we also have maybe Travis coming in with stars here. Just woke up, fellas. Don't Don't worry, I think is what he meant. I'll watch the rest later. Denver Broncos for life. Thank you, Travis. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. It's fun to be back, and I'm planning to see you guys on Thursday because we missed Monday. So hold me to that. I'll text Scott. If you guys don't hear anything differently, plan to see us Thursday morning. You guys can follow Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy, and I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you're on Facebook, make sure, if you're not already joining us on Facebook or following us on Facebook, go ahead and follow us. Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you want to talk draft, we can do that there. If you want to talk Teddy Bridgewater, we can do that there. If you want to talk edge rushers, just add us. I'll be happy to talk some football and waste a little bit of time talking football with you guys. It's my favorite thing. If you guys are joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share. I know that a lot of people are not in a position, especially with the holidays coming around. Student loans are going to be kicking in here pretty soon again. Woof. So people aren't in a financial position to donate. That's okay. That's totally fine. But what you can do that's totally free, and the number one helper for us on YouTube is subscribing to this channel, liking the show, and sharing it across your social media platforms to your fellow Bronco fans to say, listen, these guys, they have a lot of hot air, but it's good hot air. I can relate to this hot air. So make sure that you are doing that, and that can help us a heck of a lot. Really, guys, that's the number one thing. Also, make sure you're following Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. We're going to be going live there tomorrow to talk some Atlanta Falcons. I got to say, your Oluokun, is that the linebacker?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was impressing me in this last game. I know that
he's a good player. There's two of the same guys. They're undersized and fast. And if you're not keeping them clean because your defensive line is too small, then they're only making tackles 5 or 6 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. You can get away with one of those guys, but having two of them there, especially when you're paying Deion Jones as much as you are, again, it can be a little bit of a problem. But Foye can play. He's a pretty good football player.
Man, that AJ Terrell interception that he had, I screamed. I jumped up and screamed.
Yeah, we'll hit on that tomorrow. AJ should go to the Pro Bowl this year.
Oh, God, if he doesn't, this is a big, big issue. But yeah, thank you guys so much. We love you. Never ending beer. You're amazing. And let's get at it. We'll see you guys on Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow. Join us on Scott's channel tomorrow. Then we'll see you again Thursday morning. Love y'all. Stay safe. Choose kindness. Go Broncos.